Hey everyone, welcome back to Two Rivers Tabac Book Club. My name's Andrew and I'm joined by my co-host Josh.
Hello there. It is
Hello.
on.
So today we're continuing with the Dark Tower series. We're on the final book, also called The Dark Tower, Book 7. So today we're talking about part 2, just chapters 1 through 6 in part 2, I believe. Yeah, 1 through 6.
Yep.
Um, Again, just as a disclaimer, we do talk about spoilers here. We try to treat this as similar to a real book club as possible. You know, we assign out a certain amount of reading to both of us, and then we come back and actually talk about it. So if there are spoilers in this, so just be warned. If you're going to listen to this, we recommend you go back and read it and kind of follow along with us. But also on top of that, we do kind of try to aim for the things that we think are interesting in the book. We don't necessarily talk about every single detail. We assume you've already read it, like we said. But if there's something you want us to talk about that maybe we don't talk about in this episode, feel free to just let us know, and we can try to talk about it next time.
Cool.
Cool. So the first thing, first scene, I just kind of want to talk about here. Obviously, the dark man, the tall man, Randall Flagg, Walter, fucking court magician, fucking desert dweller guy, Dark Tower man, ambassador. Then they called him the
hmm
chancellor to the Crimson King. I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's what they called him. Huge scene, right? Because obviously I know you've read The Stand, so he's in the stand. So you kind of in this series you find out what ultimately happens to him.
Yep. And are you gonna ask me if I was satisfied?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna. I was gonna let you
No.
take the reins there because
I
obviously you
was
read The
uh
Stand, so I'll let you. Yeah.
I was honestly not a huge fan of how the scene played out, if I'm be honest.
Yeah.
I look because like I out of Stephen King's villains, I really liked Randall Flagg. I liked what he represented in The Stand. Uh and I really enjoyed his character. Uh, and so I'm not surprised that I guess the it creature, or well, he calls him it in the book, but we know it's probably Pennywise. Let's be honest.
It
But
definitely seems like it for sure.
yeah, but it's not confirmed, obviously, or at least not right now. But he just like he pops up, right, and then he's like trying to act all smooth and sleazy, which with the dark man with Randall Flagg, like he always acts sleazy, or like he thinks he's pulling one over you, but he never is. It's like when he does do something like that, and you look at him, you're more terrified than anything because most of the time, like I guess like in the stand, you're just regular people, right? So like if a regular person was up against this guy, he'd be terrifying, but because he's a monster basically. But I guess he just couldn't hack it up against Pennywise, or I'm gonna say Mordred. Sorry, uh, but yeah, I'd say it's probably just because I'm a little biased towards Randall Flagg, as I like him more than I like Mordred. So to have him die like this, like I wanted him to have a confrontation with Roland and the gang, and then be taken out like in a blaze of glory, type of thing. But that's just that's something you just gotta deal with real books that are more realism. Because like if this was a fantasy, like hardcore fantasy, it probably would have been exaggerated and epicized or epicized, whatever. Uh, but in more realistic realism books, like what Stephen King writes, this makes sense. So I'm not gonna say I hate it, but I'm gonna say I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah. No, and I totally see where you're coming from. And like as someone who hasn't read The Stand yet, this is my first like encounter with Randall Flagg. Like you said, he kind of mischievous, kind of sleazy, kind of reminds me of the Joker type energy. But I was surprised as well, and a little disappointed as well, because it was like Stephen King made it clear that Mordred could potentially overpower him. I'm like, and I was really caught off guard because I was like, oh, he's actually gonna die. Like when he was totally caught, and then when he
Yeah.
was starting to like disfigure himself, I was like, oh yeah, he's actually gonna die. I was really surprised because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, at least have some kind of confrontation or some kind of final sequence with Roland and his quartet and have some kind of face off maybe before you go to the Dark Tower, before you encounter the Crimson King. So I was surprised that Stephen King kind of went down this route. I mean, I can kind of see maybe why he did it, just to show Mordred's power, I suppose. Like,
Yeah.
Mordred's only been alive for, like a day, and he already has the psychic ability that outweighs Randall Flagg. Like, he can control him already. So I guess
Well,
this is kind of
yeah.
symbolizing that. But yeah, at the same time, I was also a little disappointed where I'm like I was hoping for another confrontation.
Yeah. There's so there's only a few, like I still have a hope that Randall Flagg will still show up. I feel like he might come back. Uh and there's there's two reasons why. And I'm only gonna tell you one reason that has to do with this book. There was another reason I believe this, but I'm not gonna tell you because you haven't read The Stand, so I'm not gonna spoil anything there. But in this book, I know they said like when they're figuring out what Walter is, uh, that they like came to the conclusion to that he's like this entity that like feel like it was said in the first book, or I can't remember which one, but it was like that he is like the entity where he is like created as this never kind of dying being that just roams and causes darkness and mischief everywhere he goes. Uh, so it's kind of like his punishment to do that stuff, but he's also needed in the world to be that figure, to be that side, because with light there's always dark, right?
Yeah,
So it's like I always saw him as like the embodiment of that dark. So so I'm wondering if like because of some superstition, supernatural kind of force greater than Mordred just like will bring him back somehow. And but then again, this scene could be a like a more in-depth kind of picture of showing that if Walter from the first book, Randall Flagg has been seen as the most powerful dark side kind of energy in the series so far, Mordred is now a bigger threat than that, and you've already seen what Randall Flagg is capable of. So
yeah,
I could see it going either way.
yeah.
Uh, we'll just have to see. I'm gonna say 90% of me thinks he's dead, but I have that 10% holding on to hope that he'll come back and just be a little cheeky bastard. So, but then again, I don't. He's also insane, so that's also kind of why when he's like trying to run and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna die. This is, oh my god, like I can't believe I did this. This was stupid of me. Why didn't I think?" And he's like freaking out while Mordred opens his mouth and shows him, hypnotizes him with the bulbs or whatever. Right? That's what happened.
Something like that, or like he got in his brain and like controlled him from his. It was a psychic thing.
God in his thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he made him scoop his eyes out.
Yeah, that was
And
like God. That
I was like,
scene.
God damn.
We've read a lot of scenes, that are kind of rough, but I don't know why that scene in particular just like really bothered me.
Yeah.
I
It
was
was
like,
like,
ugh.
well, the way Stephen King describes it, you can just
Yeah,
imagine it happening to yourself.
and the noise, the way he described the noise, and then like when he rips his tongue out, it's like God.
Yeah.
Just,
And so he ate him.
yeah.
He ate the whole thing.
Well, it's like
So yeah.
yeah. the spiders aren't that scary to me, but like that happening is like a different level.
Yeah, that with a baby head,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
terrifying.
He's
Like,
he's a different
but
kind of like evil.
right. So I guess this was kind of like destroying the old evil with the new evil.
Yeah. Well, I know you mentioning kind of the first book and stuff. I know they mention him being like quasi immortal or whatever. I think that's the term they use, quasi immortal. So yeah, maybe he will kind of come back as another entity because if he is partially immortal, but maybe they only meant that in that he lives a really long time, but he can still like die. But I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Um, yeah, it's I guess we'll see. I hope he does. I don't think he will, but we'll see. You
Yeah,
know?
it definitely ups the ante as far as when they have to face off with Mordred. Now we know how, like you said, what Randall Flagg was capable of was pretty extraordinary, and the fact that Mordred just basically killed him when he was only a day old was pretty significant.
Yeah,
So
it's almost like should kill Mordred as soon as possible.
yeah, before
But
he gets bigger.
it's it's I really liked the Mordred scenes because then we got to get more into his head of like who his character
Yeah,
is, and
yeah,
since this is the only Dark Tower book he's gonna be in, it's like Stephen King needed to focus a lot on this character to build him up, and I like how he went through all the possibilities, even a possibility of joining up with them. But then he dismissed it because he'd had to look at Roland up to Roland as a father
hmm
figure and give him the respect of being over him. And Mordred didn't want that. He's like, I don't want anyone to be over me.
yeah.
So
Well,
I'm not. That's not even in the books.
right. Yeah, I love the parts where we were like in Mordred's head because it was definitely interesting. Because obviously he's kind of insane, but like you said, he was like considered trying to have Roland as a father. Like he has some of those more human thoughts where he wants companionship, but then at the same time, he's like a super evil spirit thing, spider. So he's
Yeah.
like,
He
nah,
ate.
I won't let anybody be my boss.
He ate the Billy Bumbler.
Yeah, that was fucked too. There's a lot of
Yeah.
fucked scenes in this part. That scene was messed up, and then yeah, the eyes really got the tongue wasn't as big. The
Well,
eyes were like, God, that
yeah.
was horrible.
I was just I was just like, oh my god, fucking
Yeah,
spiders.
I was just like out. I was just sitting on my patio listening to it. I'm just like, I like made a face too. I was like, I can't even.
I think I was at work. I'm always at work. Always.
Gotta
I
make that money.
always gotta make that money. But what else with Mordred kind of interested you?
Yeah, I really liked being in his head. I hope we have more scenes of that, like him watching things, like just observing things. It's he Stephen King's doing a really good job of making him a scary enemy. Like obviously with Walter, he didn't just kill Walter, like he disfigured him and then killed him. But him just like hanging out in the rafters and like later in the book they're like, oh, now he's the size of like a medium-sized dog, and it's like, ew,
Yeah.
fuck that, dude. I
Oh,
fucking hate spiders. But
that's
yeah.
so. Would you prefer Mordred to just stay the main villain through the whole book, or would you think it'd be interesting to see that towards the end Randall Flagg just pop back as a villain out of nowhere and just be like, oh, we finally finished Mordred. Oh, thank God! And then out of nowhere, oh, hello there,
Hello.
hello.
Yeah, I'd love to have the final confrontation. Like I said, I was disappointed they didn't have some kind of confrontation or some kind of it doesn't even have to be a confront, just some kind of interaction as a final thing, especially because he was such a focal point in the first book and he forced Roland to like drop Jake to his death. Like we just have so much more history with him, you know? And Mordred is
Yeah,
a scary villain, but like you can't make up the time we spent with Flag in one book with Mordred, so like we have more
Oh,
history with Flag. So I'd like my confrontation, but I understand that Mordred like his was born to kill Roland, so like we also have to have that confrontation, obviously.
so this is why I'm starting to see more reasons of why this book may have got mixed reviews for
Mm-hmm.
fans.
Mm-hmm.
Because like longtime readers, like I said, like 20, 30 years reading these books, waiting for that final confrontation with Randall Flagg and Randall Flagg being in other books by Stephen King. So longtime fans are like you very are used to this villain and they're like, okay, last Dark Tower book, let's go. What's gonna happen? And then it's like, oh, he's actually a bitch compared to
To the
Mordred.
spider
It's
baby.
to the
Yeah.
spider baby. And it's like really? Like what the fuck? So I mean, and granted, I've only read The Stand. I haven't read the other books he's in. I've only read The Stand, and then this series. So and even to me, I was just kind of like, what the fuck? I'm like, the scene was really good. I like so everything that happened. I like love the way it was written, described. I'm just I am just biased towards Randall Flagg as a villain. So
No,
sue me.
yeah. No, I think like you said, even with me, like I've only read this series and I was disappointed. So I can't even imagine someone like you said who read this over 20 or 30 years, is a huge Stephen King fan, has read Randall Flagg in other books and is waiting for that confrontation with Roland, and then you just get like you said, he's just a bitch and just gets eaten by the spider. And it's like what the hell? He doesn't even talk to Roland. They don't even talk. He just
Yeah,
dies, and it's like, I mean, it's a yeah. I could definitely see how it's a little disappointing. It's you build up this villain. You literally build up this villain this entire series, but not even this series, right? The Stand,
right.
all the other books he's in, even in Wind Through the Keyhole, he's like kind of in that, and it's
Oh
like,
yeah,
yeah, dude, he's
he's
in
in the
fucking Wind Through the
story.
Keyhole too. So it's like it's crazy that he just kind of finished it really quick. And I understand it's tough to like write an ending that everybody's gonna love, right? I know it's tough to like write an ending that's gonna satisfy everyone, and like you said, everybody's gonna have all these expectations. They're gonna be like, oh, I'm ready for this fucking what's gonna happen. But you could have at least had some kind of interaction with Roland, I think, before he died. That would make it
Yeah,
better. But like you said, it was really well written though, and I enjoyed getting into Mordred's head and stuff like that. So that part was great.
yeah, and like I said, it has. I feel like it also just has to do with Stephen King's realism writing, to where like in real life, you're not gonna have like all these epic final encounters. Like
Yeah.
let's say you got bullied in high school, right? And then it's like 15 years later you're out of high school and it's like you go your whole life and you never see that bully again and you never got to stand up for yourself and do any of that shit. So then it's just kind of like obviously hopefully you should move on and just get over it. Like you move on with your life if it's like 15 years later or some shit. But it's like you never got you never got that final confrontation with him to kind of like settle it, or at least that's like an example I could think of,
Yeah.
so it's like with when it comes to like shit like that, it's you're not always gonna like settle everything with people,
Yeah. Definitely.
so
Definitely. But yeah, it definitely lends into what, like you said, the mixed reviews of this book. I can see why people might get rubbed the wrong way. We're gonna talk about this later as well. I put a note about it too, but it gets even more meta in this book too. Like Stephen King actually like talking to you. He's like, we're gonna take a closer look at this guy. Like when they get to like the breaker part and they're like talking about the breakers for a while, and he even is like, oh, we're gonna take a closer look at this guy, and I'm like, oh, that's
oh yeah,
even more meta than like the other books. Like it got more meta obviously in the other books, but now he's like legitimately breaking the fourth wall and like talking to the reader, which wasn't in
yeah,
any of the other books. So
That was like chapter 6, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So, and I only bring that up now just because it's kind of lending to. I can see
Yeah.
why people are like, what the hell, So
Yeah. So overall, I'm still digging the story and how I still like where everything's going. I
yeah,
don't have many criticisms. Just as a fan of the character Randall Flagg, I'm just a little disappointed. But I'm glad that we finally got a we finally figured out exactly what happened at the end of the Dark Tower, the book one. I guess Randall Flagg just hypnotized Roland and showed him a bunch of random shit towers, or no, a bunch of random rooms from the tower like that he knew his brain couldn't comprehend. So he was just like seeing shit and going crazy, or not going crazy, but just like in a daydream, being hypnotized.
yeah.
And then he just digs up some fucking bones nearby and just lays it down and then and dips. That was so
That
fucking
is really
funny.
funny and very like on brand.
Cause like I was wondering how he did it and what happened and what was going on. And now it seems so obvious. But at the time, if you were Roland and you're there and you're laying down and then all of a sudden you see fucking stars and shit in space and it's like all this crazy shit and you wake up and there's just a skeleton next to you and you're just like what the fuck just happened. So it's, and, since we're seeing it from Roland's point of view, we're just like, yeah, how much time did pass, like what's going on, like,
Yeah.
but then it's but then it's just like, yeah, I guess Roland isn't like thousands of years old, or maybe he is because of the time, but that event is what I originally thought like made him super old.
Right. Yeah. Me too.
But I guess not, because it wasn't that long. Or I guess I don't know how long it was, but it wasn't as long as we were made to believe.
Right. Exactly. Walter was just pranking him. Pranked you.
Yeah, little prankster, little
So funny.
man. Well, I guess since Randall Flagg's dead, I as as a
I get to
death
sense the
as
disappointment in your
right.
voice.
Well,
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 he's fucking dead now, so
nah, if this is if this is the definitive death of Randall Flagg, then I'm out of 10, I'm gonna give it a 3. And the reason it even got 3 points is because it built up Mordred as a capable villain, even more capable than Randall Flagg, and that's a good purpose for this book. And the descriptions was very good, and I actually did like feel the sense of fear coming from Randall Flagg as he tried to escape. So for those reasons alone, I couldn't like give it a 0, but the but I'm just biased because I really loved this character.
no.
So,
Yeah.
and I'm just a little disappointed of how it turned out. So that's why I give this. Okay, I'll up it to a 5 out of 10. It gets a 50% because I really like how well it was written. But
Yeah.
there we go. That's it. That's my final thing. I won't be talking about him anymore unless it's relevant. I promise.
No, I understand. I was fairly disappointed as well. So, but let's see here. I guess the next thing I wrote about was just we learned a lot about the breakers, and you might have to help me a little bit with this because I was trying to pay attention, but I was fairly busy while I was reading or listening to this part. But so the breakers are just like fairly normal people. It seems like, right? Um, they have like a number of breakers, and then they have this blue heaven simulator thing that they use to entice the breakers to be there. And the breakers also like don't know that they're consuming like the brain juice of twins.
Yeah,
Okay.
the so correct me if I'm wrong, but like the gist of all this, like it kind of confused me through the first read. Like I definitely need to go and reread these parts
Yeah,
because
it confused me too.
there was a lot of shit going on. But for the most part, I saw it as so somehow these breakers, which are people who are being fed this stuff that they were getting from the kids from the Kala. They're using these people, giving them these powers, kind of like it makes me think of The Shining, but
Hmm.
it's like an artificial power. So like how you get to like be born with The Shining or the touch, uh, like these powers they're getting or whatever the hell they're doing to them is artificial. So and somehow the breakers are using this psychic-ish ability to destroy the beams
Right,
or well, yeah, destroy the beams, but the beams are already kind of breaking down, so the breakers are kind of accelerating it.
right.
Uh, and the reason it's called Blue Heaven or because it's heaven is because you can get whatever you want. So it's paradise as long as you just do what they want you to do.
Right,
And then
yeah.
if you don't do what they want you to do, then you get punished. Which for one of the guys rolling meats, his only punishment was from for trying to escape or whatever. His only punishment was to be sent back because that was hell enough for him, and that was like, oh shit.
Yeah,
So
cuz like and yeah, and that okay, I remember now this part too cuz he describes the breakers almost like a cult cuz he compares it to that event with God, that mass suicide event with Jim Jones. I can't remember what the like church or whatever it was called that he started this cult in I think it was in California, and he gets everybody to drink poison and they all die. And he kind of compares it to that where it's like these people in this cult, this Jim Jones cult, they chose to just die because one, the cult leader had an insane amount of power over them, but also they didn't want to go back to like their old lives. So it's almost like the same thing with the breakers, where it's like the ultimate punishment for them is just to go back to their normal lives. Because I know when we were going deeper on their some of the breakers' lives, like their lives sucked, like before they went
yeah,
to the breaker school. I don't know. so
yeah,
so it's almost like they handpicked people who were absolutely miserable, showed them this blue heaven where they can literally do anything, have sex with anyone, like do anything they want. And then,
yeah,
they don't want to go back to their shitty lives. So,
yeah. And I mean, how if like you get a guy really down on his luck, like who's so like to the point of like suicide or whatever, right? Like
yeah.
he's at that low, and then you bring him to this place where it's like, all right, you can literally fuck any chick you want.
Yeah.
All you have to do is take this child brain juice and break these beams, but
And
you can,
destroy
but
the
you can,
universe.
yeah, but 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 it's all right because Marilyn Monroe, yeah, you can fuck her, yeah, yeah, Hillary Clinton, yeah,
What the fuck?
go fuck her.
Dude, I think it was funny when they were describing that too, because he's like, yeah, I fucked Marilyn Monroe, Nicole Kidman, and these some other actresses, and he was like, yeah, I could have done all of them at the same time too, and it's like, all right. and then
Yeah,
and then he was like, yeah, it's completely real until you breathe on them. Then you can like, then it like messes up the simulation a little bit, so you can't breathe on them. I was like,
yeah, I was like, bro.
okay. We're going
It,
really detailed into this sex simulator.
it,
But God,
it
can you
reminds.
imagine if that existed though? Because like it's
Oh,
like you
dude,
just
it would.
said, it makes complete sense that they're able to get these people to break these beams. Because man, like even in today's society,
Dude,
like
I'm
God damn.
if this technology existed And if it was wildly, like easily,
Available, yeah, yeah, yeah.
consumable, to where even like the really poor could afford it, I honestly think the our entire world or country at least would fall. We'd be done socially
It
because
would
then
completely,
what's
yeah,
it
change
would destroy
everything. Yeah, it would,
it would
yeah.
destroy not only destroy the family unit, but it would also why would guys even want to bother going on dates? Like why would they even bother talking to women? Why would you bother to do any of that? Why would you bother to self improve yourself? Why would you bother doing literally anything if you could just fuck any hottest chick like you want? You know?
Hey,
It's
you can have
like
a friend, okay?
yeah,
But no, I agree with you. Like the average man,
that,
like at least 80% of the motivation is like that. You know.
yeah.
So
Well, it's like what runs this society, you know? I mean,
what sells?
not saying
Sex.
yeah. I mean, it's literally everywhere, dude. Like turn
Everywhere.
on a TV,
Everywhere.
I was doing Duolingo for a while,
Yeah.
literally like anime harem sex fucking games ads on there. I'm like, bro,
I
really?
think that's just because of
Uh,
your search history. No, I'm just kidding.
No, that's not
I'm
true.
joking.
That's true.
I'm joking.
but but
Yeah, it's
it's everywhere, and
everywhere.
you have a bunch of simps giving e-girls their all their fucking money, and it's
Yeah.
like you think you think like these people who are dumping their fucking bank accounts into these like e-girls and all this other bullshit, if they had this technology, all it would they would be secluded 24/7. Like they'd probably just go to work, and then come back. Or if they work at home, just work at home. But they would never leave.
Yeah.
They just be constantly fucking Marilyn Monroe and
Yeah.
whoever else.
No, it
So
would absolutely like completely alter the fabric of society, like
yeah,
in a
yeah,
most likely a negative way. Well, it reminds me so much of, and I know you like Star Trek as well, but it reminds me of the holodeck in Star Trek, right, where you can uh, simulate pretty much anything. You can go back to, there's episodes in Star Trek where they go back to like, older times, like the 50s
yeah,
and stuff, and they go to like other planets and stuff, like, and it's crazy to think about that being available. But I remember even when I was younger, like watching Star Trek, being like, can you imagine if like this wasn't like, a more kid friendly show, if it was like a mature show, like the type of shit people would do in this holodeck, it would be fucked
oh
up.
dude,
It would be horrible.
absolutely fucked
Like
up.
it's almost
And
like
it's
we
already
really don't want that to be, like, it would be incredible if that was invented. It would be incredible if you could go back to another time and like hang out in that time and stuff, and like in go to different planets in the holodeck and stuff. But like the pros of the holodeck, I don't think would outweigh the cons of like how much, like you said, it would affect society, the horrible things people would do in it. It's
yeah, because it could you imagine just like let's say it's like readily easily available, like you could just go down to the store or like at the mall and they just have you just like an arcade, go in there and do whatever you want. Uh, none of it's real, right? So it's like uh, you're not gonna get in trouble for anything you do in there.
exactly.
So if you could do anything in there and you go in there and do it in there, then you're like you're you're forming a habit in your head and your brain, solidifying that. And if you like get pleasure from doing weird shit or gruesome shit like in that holodeck or whatever, then who's to say you won't do it in real life too?
Yeah.
Because and then it comes like then it just comes like, am I in the Matrix? Is anything real? So
Yeah.
I think we're probably digging way too deep, but it's
We
like
are digging a little deep
it's
on this, but like honestly, it's something that's
it's terrifying.
yeah, it's like a very significant piece of technology that would alter the fabric of society. Like almost like the same way that phones have altered society. Like having a smartphone in your pocket now, it's completely changed the entire world. Like this invention would be the same. It would completely change the
Yeah.
fabric of the world.
I mean, shit. In middle school, they're like, you'll never. What, you gonna have a calculator on your phone? It's never gonna happen.
I know,
Or
right? Yeah, they literally would say
like,
things like
right?
that, and it, and now we literally have that, and it's
Yeah.
incredible the computing power you have on your phone now, and it's changed how people work. It's changed how you interact with people. It's changed how young people develop. It's like literally changed everything, and I think the holodeck would be a similar thing. It would change everything. Or,
Like I have not seen too many graphing calculators like in the stores anymore. And so I wonder because like you could probably just download an app on your phone
yeah,
to do all that for you. Like you don't need to buy a $200 fucking
graphing
big
calculator.
ass
Yeah.
graphing. Fuck those graphing
Yeah, I remember
calculators.
we'd have to like go buy one, and it was expensive as hell. Yeah,
You always felt like a boss
it
though.
was like a really yeah. It seemed cool. You could even like pull up like a graph literally on it and stuff. Like whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're a nerd like us, it's like, whoa. If you're anyone else, you're like,
Yeah.
God, what the fuck?
Well, it's funny because even when I was coming out of college, it was like the early stages of this, but there were websites where you could just put in like a calculus problem and it'll spit back the derivative or like the integral of like a calculus problem. You don't even need like a graphing calculator anymore because obviously you can do
Oh
that in a
my
graphing
god.
calculator. But yeah, like and that was the early stages of that. Like it was still kind of janky. I'm sure now it works super well. Um,
Bro, I'm just gonna ask Chat GPT
yeah,
to
I was
do
gonna
all my math
mention
for
that.
me.
Yeah, that too. The AI shit. But yeah,
That's crazy. Good job, Stephen King.
yes, sex simulator. So
I mean, I'd try it. Why not?
yeah, I think any man would for sure, and I think
Oh, I wouldn't.
a good amount of women probably would too. Honestly.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said it'd be the end,
Yeah, no, it would.
the end of the social network. Why
Yeah,
why bother trying to go get a real woman
yeah,
when it's or a man in that case for women or whatever. But like,
yeah.
what would be the point if you could just go pay money and then simulate like a perfect date and then bang them,
Yep,
or just bang them and not even care?
yep.
I mean, I do feel like there would be a ripple effect like in Brave New World. I don't want to spoil anything too much in here in case, but it's kind of like the premise we're discussing now is kind of that's exactly what like the premise in Brave New World is like how controlling people through pleasure is a dystopia, and how it also leads to unfulfillment and mental illness.
I see.
So, because it's just like the opposite of 1984, where 1984 is control through pain and propaganda
Mm-hmm.
and gaslighting, and Brave New World's just through distraction and pleasure, which is more, I think, accurate to our culture
Yeah,
in
and like modern
America. I would say,
society nowadays, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, because I would you say like a lot of like strong dictatorships and stuff are more like 1984, and then like Brave New World is more like first world country
Yeah, I
problems.
guess. Yeah, that's a good point. It'd be like Western society is more dictated by pleasure, but obviously, if you live under a regime, that's
Yeah, it's
that's
1984.
propaganda and
Here's
control.
if you live in China, it's 1984. If you live in America, it's Brave New World. That's just how
Yep.
it is.
Yep.
Smart cities. No, thank you, Big Brother. All right, all right, all right. So Roland bet Shimi.
Yeah, so that shit was wild,
Yeah,
right? I was like,
I
like
couldn't believe it.
we were talking about breakers for 4,000 years. I was like, all right, yeah, cool. And then it's like, okay, yeah, you fucked Marilyn Monroe 4,000 times, and then it's like, oh, Stanley Ashimi, that's insane.
Dude,
Because
I
like
was so
me
happy.
too, I was hyped. That was such a cool moment, and it kind of closed the loophole of like what happened to Shimi, because like we don't really know what really happened,
Like
because
all Roland's.
yeah.
No,
Oh no,
sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was saying like all Roland said was that like he hung or Shimi traveled with them for a bit,
Oh yeah,
but then
yeah,
they went
yeah.
their separate ways, and so we never got more stories. I think with Shimi, uh, so it was like they just went their separate ways eventually, and then yeah, then I guess they met here.
It was like a really emotional moment too, and I don't know why like certain moments in books make me emotional too, but yeah, this scene made me emotional where it's like Shimi was like blaming himself and he was like super upset, and Roland's like, "It's not your fault," and it's like, damn, because that book was really good. I don't know, it
Yeah,
was a really good book, but and
it
Shimi was
it
the best
was
character, obviously.
right. Love Shimi. He's Shimi's like Roland's just like yeah, I loved her, and then Shimi's like I loved her too.
Yeah,
I was just like, oh, and then they gave a hug, and Roland cried a little bit, and then like I know Susanna and Eddie and stuff were just like, wow, whoa,
yeah,
holy shit. They're like, oh my god, that's Shimi from the story, and Susanna's like about to cry.
yeah.
It's like
I hope they like have him more in this. I don't know if they will, but um, it'd be cool. I know, like,
I think he's gonna die.
yeah, he'll probably die. Knowing Stephen King, he'll probably get his fucking eyes ripped out by Mordred or some shit. God damn it.
Yeah, right.
Mordred will be like the size of like a fucking house and just descend on him and just rip him to shreds, something like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but
Mordred's gonna be plus.
I know the Kate like tries to get him to say more stuff about Shimi later, but he doesn't want to yet. So maybe he will later in this book, but we'll see.
Maybe Stephen King just hadn't thought of it yet. He
Or
was
that,
like, yeah,
yeah.
it's time to move
He
on.
was still processing what people were gonna say about the Walter Mordred scene.
Yeah. He was just like, it's like,
He's
God, do
like,
you
"Fuck,
think
I should
people
have
will?
wrote that way, but I already did it." So
Oh, I can't change it now. It was like 300 million pages ago. It's like I'd have to change all this stuff about wanting to bang Marilyn Monroe.
it really,
I just can't do it.
they say books are reflections of their authors, and I was not surprised to see a sex simulator in his books.
Dude, oh my fucking god. It's
Uh,
curved like a scimitar.
God damn
Meant to fuck her.
it.
Fuck her while she died.
Could have fucked
Just
all of them
like
at the same time if I wanted
could have
to.
fucked
It's
her.
like, all right, cool.
Alright, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like the guy later on is like, yeah, I just fuck hot chicks. I'm gonna fuck.
Yeah. It's like, all right. And
It's
then
like, alright.
yeah, then there's that wasn't there a breaker who's like kind of religious, and he's like, yeah, like I know I'm destroying the world, but I get to. I think it's the same person. He's like, yeah, I get to fuck all these girls, and like, I'll get to heaven, and then I'll just tell God to forgive me, and it'll be fine. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
It's basically like so the whole thing with forgiveness were like because he said he was Christian or whatever. And so here's the thing a lot of people get wrong about the whole redemption thing where it's like I can be a complete dickhead and all I have to do is ask for forgiveness and then I'm saved.
yeah,
That's not how it works. I'm just kidding. So like this guy who's being completely selfish, destroying the world like on purpose, just giving in to all his desires and temptations and not giving a fuck.
yeah,
He's not gonna get redeemed because like it's like let's- I'll be real quick, but this is the gist. You have to feel it in yourself. Like it has to be like in your heart. Like you have to be a changed person. Like you have to actually want to seek redemption and be redeemed. It's like a feeling you get of like wanting to do that. So like for like people who just keep saying, "Oh, you can just be an asshole and just ask for forgiveness." That's not how it works. So it's like you gotta feel it in
yeah.
you, and if you feel it in yourself, odds are you're just not gonna be that a dick.
You're
You're
not
not
gonna
gonna be
be an
that
asshole
person.
to begin with. Yeah.
Yeah, like once you change. So it's like So I thought that was interesting from this perspective because I used to think like that too when I was younger. But it's like the more you learn and actually like get into it, you figure it out. But like that's that's the gist. So I thought that was really funny when Stephen King wrote that in there because obviously I don't know if Stephen King's Christian or not. It's pretty obvious with him like being American writer. Our culture has a lot to do with God, Christianity, and religion and stuff. So Stephen King definitely puts a lot of that into his work. But I don't know if Stephen King is religious or not. I feel like it's one of those things that could go either way sometimes. I just don't know. I don't really care.
Yeah.
It's just interesting because I like wonder when he wrote this character, if this was like just like, oh, this is just how this character is, or if it's just like how he thinks. But I'm pretty sure it's just the character.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to me. I thought it was really funny that whole scene because of just the whole time I'm just like that's not how that works, buddy. You're going to hell. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But like,
Well,
but yeah, that was funny.
he definitely has a lot of references, I think, to Christianity, with which comes with the territory, like you said, of being an American author. But also, like, I feel like part of the scene also kind of illustrates how far some of these breakers have just deluded themselves, right? They're just
Yeah,
so in the sauce of the sex simulator that they just don't
yeah.
fucking care. And they,
he
like,
he
rationalize it in their brain. But
because he literally said like the character. What was? Do you know his name?
can't remember his name,
Forgot his
unfortunately.
name.
Yeah.
It's probably not that important. If it's important,
Yeah,
we'll mention it
yeah,
next video. It's
we'll
like
mention it
whatever.
again and we'll remember it.
But it was. Oh, sorry, I had to burp. It was fuck. What was I saying? I completely lost the track of thought.
Sex simulators, they
Damn
do
it!
that to your brain.
Damn it! I forgot what I was gonna say. I was too busy trying not to throw up my Chipotle. Forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, I'm out of
Oh my
water
god.
too. Damn.
Yeah,
Oh well. Fuck it, I guess. I don't remember. But I'm gonna re-listen to this once it's uploaded and be like, ah, damn it, that's what I was gonna say. No, I forgot.
uh,
Um.
yeah, that you know.
Oh yeah. No, okay. Now I remember. Okay. So it was the part where this character was like he's like, oh, I pray every day. It's like to
Oh
humble
yeah,
myself
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff.
Mm.
And the other, so it wasn't, this was the one I was going to talk about, but I just remembered this one too. But he said the other guy he was talking to was like, well, if when you pray to your God, why do you do it next to the shitter? Or like, the shitter or whatever. And he's just like, do it to humble myself. And like, so it's like showing that he's religious. And then he has thoughts in his head that he's like, I'm helping destroy the world God created while also planning on getting forgiven by him in the end. And he's like, honestly, like it feels like he's not quite sure whether he is or not, but he's kind of like you said, he's convincing himself that everything will be fine and he will be forgiven because he even like talks about seeing his mom and stuff
Yeah,
in heaven, and it's just like, oh shit, like this guy's fucked.
I do
Like,
like this angle because it's you could have just wrote the breakers in and just been like, oh, they're just mindless, drones or whatever that are destroying the beam. But this makes it more. Again, Stephen King tries to like explore, the darker side of people. Obviously, with most of his books, he does that, and this kind of explores that too, where it's like you take someone like you said who's like on the brink of suicide or has a horrible life, and you give them this simulator where they can do anything they want, and then they become these delusional people, like this religious guy who is just crazy.
yeah, yeah. Because honestly, I have no doubts that there are like people like this.
Oh
Like there
yeah,
definitely
yeah,
are.
and
Oh
Stephen
yeah,
King does a great job, like yeah, making it relatable, where it's like exploring the darker side, but also like you can like you said, absolutely see people that would do this. Unfortunately, you
Yeah.
know.
So it's it's too bad I can't remember his name, but I was like the whole that chapter 6 was pretty long,
Hmm.
and you know it. I'm gonna be honest. I feel like on the reread, like rereading this book, it's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be a whole lot better than the first read through because I'm just so excited just to see Roland and the gang do stuff that every time it switches from them to do like a long section like this, I'm just kind of like, oh, this is like the last book. I just want to see Roland in them mostly because it's like this is the last time we're ever gonna read about him,
Yep,
or
exactly.
to my knowledge. So,
Yep.
so when we get a chapter like this, I'm kind of distracted because I'm like, oh, is it almost over?
I'm the
Like, what are
same.
they?
I'm the same, and it was really long. But yeah, like you said, on a reread, when we already know what happens, it'd be easier to absorb these details. But yeah, I don't care as much about this section for sure. But um, I guess you know that's pretty
Yeah,
much that's pretty much all I had as far as my notes. Was there anything else you kind of
yeah.
wanted to bring up?
Um, kind of want to do a like spoiler section for other books real quick. It won't be as long as the last one, but I want to say it now, uh, just in case you haven't read the other books. Obviously, I won't be talking about The Stand because you haven't read it, but I want to talk uh more about the other book, it. So,
Okay, yeah, for sure.
all right, this is
This
your
is your
warning.
warning.
5, 4, 3. Fuck you. Okay, just kidding. Love you. All right. So, when he was hypnotizing, when Mordred was
Uh
hypnotizing
huh.
Randall
Uh-huh.
Flagg, and it's like his mouth opened, and then there was like 3 glowing balls or whatever that was like hypnotizing
Hmm.
him, and he was like getting into his mind. I'm like, that's when I was like, okay, this is Pennywise because I haven't read the book, but in the movies, you see the same thing. He opens his mouth wide, and you see the
Yep,
3
it's the
balls.
same in the book.
So it's either this is Pennywise or it's it's like his parent.
Yeah, it's either
That's
Pennywise or yeah, like exactly. Like maybe he has a brood of spiders later on that and one of them is Pennywise, or just the same breed of demon, like the same type of demon. But yeah, absolutely. Like at
yeah.
this point, yeah, no, I
All right.
definitely it's got to be related to it in some way, you know.
Yeah. Well, he's already made the it reference where
Mm-hmm.
Randall Flagg was just like more like what is this? What is it? I was like I
anytime,
was
anytime they
like,
say the
well,
word "it" in this book, I'm just gonna like circle it, like red. I knew
I
it.
bet I wonder in the book it how many times they called it, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
you know.
and it was written a long time ago
Yes,
compared to this book.
yes.
So I feel like where when Stephen King had Randall Flagg say it, like what is it? What is, I was like this has to be Pennywise because it's either has to be Pennywise or Spawn off of it because Pennywise has blue eyes in scenes, and so does this spider. So does Mordred that he got from Roland. Uh, and it has the 3 hypnotizing balls in the mouth. Whatever the fuck that's supposed to represent, I have no idea.
Yeah,
But
he is.
but yeah, so
Yeah, it definitely seems
so this
like it.
is so it's my prediction, and we'll see because if the kids if the kids as adults are able to beat Pennywise and Randall Flagg didn't, I'm just like what the fuck?
Oh my, you're right though. It's gotta be. I don't know. I hope he fleshes it out well. He's had plenty of time to do that, so we'll see
Yeah.
though. But yeah, God,
But
that would be so funny.
you know, I can actually believe that Randall Flagg lost in this situation compared to the kids because Randall Flagg didn't get a chance to overcome the fear. Like they don't know anything about
Good point.
like he doesn't know
Yeah,
anything
good
about the
point.
spider. He all he knew was that he knew he was gonna be attacked and killed.
Yeah,
And he's like an old man. He's just like and he knows he's more powerful than him. He knows that Mordred's more powerful than him. And so because of that he had fear. Like he wasn't just going to conquer that fear. So like, he knew he had to get out of there, or he was going to die. And so, yeah, it was like a quick instant. But the kids had time to figure out how its power worked to use it against him. Because at that point, because like in this, if Pennywise really wanted to, he could have easily just ate all of the kids, easily killed them all, no story. But in that book, and I haven't read the book obviously, but in the movies, he wants to scare the living shit out of them because they taste better
yep.
when they're scared, or like they give him. Is it more nutrients too? Like does he feeds off the fear?
Yeah, he gets energy
Right.
from the fear. I think something like that. Yeah, he gets something out of it. Obviously.
Yeah. So he had if he didn't want to get that, he could easily just eat them all or
Right.
kill
Yeah,
them
he's way more
like
powerful
without trouble.
than them.
Yeah. So in this instance, he knew Randall Flagg was going to turn against him at one point. So he's like, he just straight up, I don't care if he's super scared or not, I'm just going to kill him. Well, that and he's only a day old, so it's not like he has like a whole routine going, right? So that makes me feel a little bit better about Randall Flagg's death, him just how that happened. And then in it also makes sense of how the adults beat Pennywise is because Pennywise is just fucking with them to scare them, but then they beat him, and then the second time they go to fight him, he's still trying to scare them until the very end when he like becomes a spider and tries to kill them at that point because he's just had it with that shit.
Right.
But then by that point it was too late, and they figured out how to beat him was just by not being afraid. So the kids had time to figure it out. Randall Flagg didn't. That's how kids beat Pennywise, and Randall Flagg died. And granted, we don't know. I don't know 100% sure that Mordred is Pennywise. I'm just saying he either is or he's a parent of. And the reason I say a parent of and not a similar demon is because of the blue eyes. It's strictly stated that Mordred has those bright blue eyes because Roland has bright blue eyes, and Pennywise also has bright blue eyes.
Yeah. True.
So,
True.
that is it.
Well, we'll see if he has some kitties.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, we'll see.
But,
Yeah, that's
all I had.
That's all I had. What's your predictions for part 2 of this section? I don't think they're gonna destroy the breakers and save the beam.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're just gonna let the breakers continue and everybody dies.
That's what I think.
Roland's gonna get in this sex sim and never leave. And then
Yeah.
let the world die.
What was his love's name again?
Susan.
Susan Dugasho.
Roland, I love thee.
Dugato. Oh, thank you, Sai. Oh, don't call me that. It makes me feel old.
I forgot that was a fucking conversation they had.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
That's I just remember like the random shit.
Yeah.
It was like I remember when they were searching in like the bull tracks and shit on that farm, and then they like almost fuck, and then roll. They're both just like, no, we can't, even though I want to so bad. And Roland's like, oh, I gotta get control of myself, and then they end up just fucking anyway.
Yep.
And then
Incredible.
That was great. Yep. All right, that's all I
Yeah,
had.
that's all I got. All right, I can take us out here.
Let's go. Me.
All right, so that was chapters 1 through 6, and then we're just gonna finish part 2, I think, right? Chapters 7 through 12. I think.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll
All right.
let us know if we missed anything you want us to talk about it. Feel free to give us a like or comment. But we'll see you next week with 7 through 12 in part 2.
Cool. Smell you later, Red.
See ya.